Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Mind The Gaffes. Barbenheimer, which has become a massive meme.
Have you seen it?
No. I struggled to choose a film to watch. That's why we end up watching My Massive Cock and 90 Day Fiancé. So it's a program about people's larger male anatomy.
Fuck me, that's why they keep sending me letters.
Because we've come out the cinema and we've realised that not everything is right in the world. People aren't getting paid what they should be paid.
Everyone's doing it as a sense of duty. I'm here now and I want to save lives. And if I leave, I can't live with the fact that if I quit, people might die.
I've just been out to see Barbenheimer, which for those of you that have been living under a rock, is the new Christopher Nolan film, Oppenheimer, which is the man that created the nuclear bomb, and Barbie. And then watching those films back to back. We're going to talk about that and the genius marketing strategy behind it. But that's not all. Once we depart Barbie land and enter the real world, you'll realise it's shit. Because everyone is on strike. In fact, it's the first time that both the actors and writers are on strike simultaneously since 1960. I don't even think film was in colour in 1960. And in the UK, we already have enough public sector workers on strikes, from doctors to teachers and railway workers. It's too much. Listen, doctors and nurses striking where people could die is one thing. But now you're impacting my cinema-going experience, and that is absolutely, completely unacceptable. Quite frankly, Oppenheimer's already developed a nuclear bomb, so Putin, why don't you just put me out of my fucking misery and just end this already?
Can we start by asking, is everything okay?
Everything's fine, Ross. It's all good.
Do we need to
okay?
do an intervention?
Yes. Yeah, I need therapy. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. No.
Second question, was there colour film in the 1960s?
I don't think there was.
Want to know a fun fact? Who led the strikes in the 1960s, or the writers? The future Republican president, Ronald Reagan.
Reagan?
Yeah.
That was a fun fact.
I heard it the other day. I thought it was really interesting. When you said
I did not expect this insight. But, we'll start with Barbenheimer, which has become a massive meme as of late. I went to watch the films back to back yesterday. I'm now celebrating Barbie. I'm wearing a pink shirt.
Yeah.
What happened?
It's a bit of Kennedy.
That everyone in the cinema was dressed up in pink.
Yeah,
They're all getting into it.
I haven't seen them yet. I think the important first question is, what order did you watch them in, and why did you choose that order?
I have a very practical reason. I chose Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer.
I thought it was Oppenheimer.
It's Oppenheimer. And I chose that one first because there was only 3 IMAX screenings. And then I actually did fall asleep during Barbie. Because it was the second film I watched. And
you fell asleep. Damn.
And it was cringe.
You didn't like it?
The thing with Barbie, I don't understand who the target audience was for that.
Not
film.
you.
I think it's generally probably women and gay men. I think it's the target.
I felt so awkward in the audience. Listen, me and my mate were the only two. The only other men were ones in couples or like families. It was loads of little girls and just women dressed up in Barbie costumes. And then there's just me and my mate.
Yeah, I mean, you ask about the target audience. It's people that have grown up with that toy, with the shows, in the same way that like we would grow up watching like Star Wars and stuff. Oh, they referenced this and they did that and they had this certain outfit.
The better comparison would be Marvel, I guess. Like, oh, here's the comic book references. Oh, here's the Barbie references from... This is the second toy that was released. They're obviously trying to reach a broad audience. And there was like a couple jokes in there. I was like, that was for me. That was like for me as a 26-year-old white male. That was funny.
That's good.
But it was few and far between. And for the rest of it, it was just, I don't know.
It was just a bit mixed in terms of actually...
Have you seen it?
No. I mean, I have been trying to find a way to watch it, but I don't really want to go to the cinema to pay and watch it.
I purely went to watch it just because of the meme, Barbenheimer.
Yeah.
And that leads me on to why this is a genius marketing strategy. Because I tell you what, there is no way I would have gone to the cinema to watch this.
No way.
But it became a meme, so I'm like, okay, I'll watch these back to back. And just some stats here. So in terms of box office, I don't know where I got this from, but it's from the internet somewhere. So the winner between the two, the number one movie in North America, is Warner Bros. Discovery's Barbie, after scoring 22.2 million on Thursday alone, the highest preview ticket sales of the year. And then Universal's Oppenheimer claims second place on Thursday with 10.5 million made in previews. And its 3-hour plus runtime isn't projected to deter theatregoers. The film is pacing to make just shy of 50 million opening weekend. So it's made a lot of money.
Both very successful.
Yeah, both very successful. I'm utterly convinced that Barbie's got the better deal out of this meme. Because I feel like people who are watching Christopher Nolan's film were going to watch it anyway. But now more people like me watched Barbie when I wouldn't have. If
you look at like the Barbie... The original trailer, they were parodying 2001 Space Odyssey, which is not a... That's trying to grab people on the other side on the Oppenheimer crowd.
Yeah.
It's not just going to be some like random cash grab, goofy like Barbie film. It's actually going to have quite a bit of thought behind it. They weren't just going like, oh, it's all going to be pink and like girly and like... I don't know, I thought that was like an intentional thing to convince people like, oh, this is probably worth watching.
I was in Taipei last week. I just name drop that. The same marketing that you were seeing in London, on all the buses, like bright pink buses, the toy packaging, obviously in Chinese, but same thing. And
everywhere.
It seems to be hitting everywhere.
So I wanted to show you some of these. First of all, you have the trailer mixes on YouTube everywhere, where they're they're editing the trailer in the style and tone of the opposite film, which is just absurd. You've got these T-shirts. You've also got loads of brands jumping on this. Monzo Bank posting on their LinkedIn, leaving work on a Friday versus coming in on a Monday. Heineken done a billboard, and they only showed Ken, and the rest was cropped out. And then you've just got social media going mental, with me going from Barbie, happy face, to Oppenheimer, and then I'm very miserable.
It has taken over like my social media feeds 100%.
Do you know why it's ended up on the same day?
Warner Bros. Discovery did Barbie, and Universal done Oppenheimer.
So Christopher Nolan used to do all his films with
Warner Bros.
Yeah. There was some kind of dispute. People can like look it up or whatever. The
dispute was when they were releasing all the films on HBO Max exclusively and not in cinema, and then Nolan done his nut.
Especially big theatrical films. He obviously wants it all filmed on like the highest possible IMAX quality, Dolby Atmos. Like
it's all shot in IMAX, so 4 IMAX.
He's like, I want you to see it in the cinema as close as it.
You're literally ruining my film in the way I want audiences to view it.
So that's why Nolan was pissed at Warner Bros.
Yeah.
He then went out to all the different studios and was like, I want to make this movie. I'm not doing Warner Bros. Anymore. He landed on
Universal.
So he lands on Universal. Basically, Warner Bros. Were like, they knew when he was going to release his next film. They did Barbie on the same day deliberately to fuck with him. Like, oh, we're going to take away potential people going to see your film who just want to go to the cinema, see whatever's on, and they're going to go see our film. And obviously, it's horrendously backfired.
It hasn't.
It hasn't.
It's benefited them as case in point. It's
backfired.
This whole thing.
It's backfired on the studio who are trying to fuck him over.
Okay, it backfired in terms of fucking him over.
Their objective to fuck him over didn't work,
but it's helped them make more money, so it doesn't really count. It's like, okay, I went in with bad intentions here to screw you over, but actually, by me trying to screw you over, I didn't screw you over, but I also made more money.
You made the point earlier, Barbie's won more than Oppenheimer's. I think the way they marketed it separate from Oppenheimer and everything, the cast, the director, everything about it didn't come across to me as like, oh, this is going to be some like B movie, like jumping on a franchise. It seemed like there was actually a lot behind the film.
Which one
I
is
think
this? Barbie?
this is Barbie.
Yeah.
I think it would have actually been really successful regardless. Like, and not least because you've got Margot Robbie, you've got Ryan, like they're like the biggest stars potentially in like the whole. I think it would have done really well, and I think you can't discount the fact that like this is a lot of people's childhoods. So many millions of people. It's probably the biggest franchise behind like Lego or something in terms of like kids' toys. I think it was always going to do well. I think the whole memes helped both. I would say like Christopher Nolan's film. It's like people go to see it because it's his film.
Yeah,
I don't think it was necessarily like a slam dunk that like people would be like super. I don't like, for example, would I have heard of it if it wasn't for the meme? Because they didn't put as much into marketing.
I feel like all the Nolan films make so much money, though. It's like guaranteed people would love it. I just know from my own personal experience, I would not have watched Barbie if not for
that's fair.
So that's why I think that way.
But I think there's probably a lot more people that would be the target audience for Barbie.
Is there a better movie marketing strategy here that's ever came before? I don't know.
Yeah, but I think you're confusing two things because these are other companies trying to make money off of the meme. This isn't the studio itself.
Yeah,
marketing strategy. They have referenced it, and they had the red carpet. They had red carpets and stuff like the T-shirts that you showed there. I think that's just random people just trying to make money off of the meme. That's not the studios making it that are like collaborating or anything.
Do you think they should? Will we see more of this now that?
We definitely will. This is such a classic thing where like it's going to get annoying to the point where it's going to be really obvious what they're doing. Yeah. It's going to be like, oh, they're trying to do the Barbie thing. Like it's happened once before with Mamma Mia and The Dark Knight.
But this one feels like it's not natural, but it feels more natural the way it's sort of progressed.
Anything kind of fan created.
The irony is how different. If it was like a similar film.
Yeah, it wouldn't work.
It wouldn't work. Okay. It would probably have screwed over Nolan more. It's the fact that they're so polar opposites. It's just that
it's hilarious.
It's just hilarious. Like you couldn't have two more different films.
Have you seen any Christopher Nolan films, Callum? Because that's what I want to know. Like any at all?
I've not recognised that. I've
Inception.
No, I have heard of it though.
Watch any of them? No. And you're watching
24-Hour
Bride or whatever.
What we need to do, we need to get Callum to watch. We need to get Callum to watch like a top 3.
Actually, do you know, I always struggle to choose a film to watch. That's why we end up watching My Massive Cock and 90 Day Fiance.
My Massive Cock.
Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned that earlier. What is that?
So it's a Channel 4 program, and I think it was like. I think that tells you everything. So it's a program about people's like larger male anatomy.
Fuck me, that's why they keep sending me letters.
Yeah, so there's a guy on there. There's one guy. He's actually he has got so many problems with it, and it causes problems with his relationship. He actually goes for to a doctor to try and ask about penile, reduction. It sounds really painful. It's an interesting program to watch.
Big dick problems.
Yeah.
Damn.
I don't want to look at My Massive Cock, thanks.
What do the guys look like in the show? Are they like...
One of the guys is like really skinny and small, and he's got like, it's like 11 inches erect.
Oh my God.
So he said it's bigger than his forearm. So he did a
like width.
He did a like width. It's like he did a mold of it, and it was like bigger than his forearm. Yeah, he did a mold of it.
Does he like get lightheaded because so much
Maybe.
blood is leaving his bloodstream?
Yeah,
that's the thing.
I'll send you the YouTube clip because it's a great clip to watch. No, nothing shows, but it just to see the size of this, basically is a dildo of his own penis compared to his arm. It's crazy.
Yeah,
God, and he must only be like 5'6" or something. He's tiny.
How does he carry it around?
Do you know what he said on one of his? He went to a job interview, and because of it, he was flaccid, and they said, "Oh, we thought you were a bit inappropriate in the interview because we could see your erection," and he got denied the job because of that. So he has to buy special underwear which has a bigger pouch at the front to keep it in place. Otherwise, it just pokes out the bottom of the underwear.
Oh, man.
Yeah, but surely they would have seen it like crawling down your leg.
What are you talking about? The interview?
It's like pointing.
Yeah, if it's like.
But it's the bulge. The bulge is what.
Yeah, but they see the bulge, and then they see this fucking snake down his leg, and they'll be like, "Well, it can't be an erection."
I think they just thought the whole thing.
They saw the thing, and he was wearing.
They saw what they wanted to see.
He shouldn't have worn tight trousers. I'm sorry. He's like, "Oh, they denied me the job."
No, to be fair,
well, he's not going to get a job if he's wearing jogging bottoms.
Bit of baggage in the trouser region.
But I'll send you the video. It's very funny to watch.
I think he's famous with the ladies now.
What's more likely, Luke? They deny you for his trousers were a bit too baggy, or he had fucking tight trousers, massive fucking cocks hanging out.
So yeah, that was what we were watching last night, 9 to 10, and my massive cock.
That's kind of cool.
Now we're going on to some more serious stuff because we've come out the cinema and we've realised that not everything is right in the world. People aren't getting paid what they should be paid. But it's more complicated than that because not only are the unions representing the actors and Hollywood writers staging a strike at the same time, protesting over low pay, there's also the element of the studio's proposals using artificial intelligence tools in production that's causing a bit of a stir. And more than 175,000 union members are now out of work until a deal is made. Of course, on the other side, you've got people like Bob Iger, Disney CEO, saying there's a level of expectation that they have that is just not realistic. And they're adding to the set of the challenges, self-inflicted, I'd say, that this business is already facing that is quite frankly very disruptive. And then you've got the rapid shift towards streaming, which might be some of those challenging business costs you're referencing by doing streaming. The rapid shift towards streaming, coupled with the existential threats posed by AI, has created a canyon between what Hollywood writers and actors want and what the country's largest media companies are willing to give. And quote from the union president, "You cannot change the business model as much as it has changed and not expect the contract to change too." So, I think there's two different issues. The first one is demanding residuals based on viewership levels on streaming services. Now, there's been a lot of problems with the move to streaming where people's pay hasn't necessarily been reflected with that. The big example, which people are like, oh, who cares, you get paid millions anyway, even though it was in your contract, was the Scarlett Johansson situation, where she was like, well, I get bonus based off the box office, and then there's no box office because you just put it on streaming and I didn't get a say in that, and now I get no bonus, even though I had a contract for that. It's kind of shady. But what's happening here, with the writers specifically, writers would say they would write an episode, and say that episode, blew up. Big Bang Theory, Office, as a sitcom example, they would then get paid for every repeated kind of broadcast of that episode. They'd get residuals on that.
Yeah.
You're still not getting that on streaming. And, of course, we don't really know the viewership numbers for those. So, effectively, writers are now out of pocket because, sometimes it could be months long they work on a project, but the residual payments from the previous thing they wrote would keep them going, effectively. And now it's just not sustainable to work in the industry as a writer as it currently stands.
I think the problem I can have solidarity with my fellow workers across the globe, as I sound like a communist. So I can understand sort of the views around the writers and wanting to change their sort of, or keep up and not be abused by the various mega corporations like Comcast and Disney and whoever else. I think the one I do struggle with is the one, and I get the point you made about Scarlett Johansson. I do struggle to have any empathy for it. I get the whole point around it, but I struggle.
The A-list actors, because they get paid millions.
I get that, but then obviously it does cascade down to those who are maybe not A-list actors, but I think it's because you've got these very top bill actors who are walking out of their premieres or not attending the premiere. I think it was Oppenheimer was the one, wasn't it?
Matt Damon didn't show up.
Yeah. But I think they did the red carpet, then they didn't actually stay for the screening or something like that.
Okay.
In the London one, because the strike had kicked in. But obviously we have to realise that it's the lower grade actors which are going to be the ones who are most affected by this.
And writers,
sorry. But when you've got these big faces at the top, like talking about it, I struggle to have empathy for it, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, but it's more about, like, especially if you're a big actor and you give a great performance and they're using your likeness to promote the film and it ends up being really successful, it makes sense you're compensated for that. Like, obviously, it's all...
Do they want to be compensated, or they just want to rule it out completely?
But I think focusing on the big actors kind of diverts from the actual...
And I think that is effectively a distraction.
Because there's only so many,
which is how many writers are there in the industry? How many actors are there in the industry? These A-list actors are irrelevant, really, to the actual main point of this problem.
0.1% or
yeah,
whatever.
It's a small, obviously significant money goes towards them, but you're still underpaying thousands and hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, like
of actors.
they're going to get attention because they're celebrities. So if they have an opinion, that's what you're going to be reading.
Yeah,
but you're not going to read the opinion of some writer who worked on the X-Files for 20 years and doesn't get any residuals or reruns or anything. So I think it's really important, and I think it's the executives of the company. They get these massive bonuses. They're throwing a fit now about how, we're having to push projects back and the industry is in trouble. And it's like, what they don't want to do is set a precedent of paying people, especially residuals and stuff. That's how they become millionaires, like all of these producers and stuff. Like, that's how they become, like, absurdly rich. Because, like, sometimes you think about it, it's like, how are, like, these Hollywood producers, like, that wealthy? Like, where's that actually?
Well, in this case, this doesn't even apply to producers. That's not the unions.
They would take the cut of the residuals that they're not giving to the actors. That's the problem. Is all the
on streaming? Well, I don't know. I don't know.
Streaming's a whole other thing. But even a lot of it comes down to, like, if you're acting on something, and acting's one of those things where it's like it might be a lot of time between roles and stuff. If you're a big actor, you can probably say, hey, I want this in my contract. But it's the power dynamic of, you want to be a movie star? Take this dog shit contract, be in my show.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't want to be a movie star? We'll find there's 300 people that audition for this. Like, go fuck yourself, basically.
I think the problem is with anything, if you're being an actor, you're being a writer or whatever other industry that, you're doing where they're on strike, if you are not getting enough money to have a comfortable lifestyle wherever they're doing that thing, then, it's not sustainable. Therefore, you can't do it. Therefore, you're not going to get good writers and good actors.
But it's all predatory because it's an industry where they know a lot of people want to do it. They want to work in show business. They want to be a writer on the show.
Work for shit money.
So they'll just feel, if 9 people were like, I won't do that for that money, that's like ridiculous pay, the 10th person will say, I'll do that, I want to be in show business. They know that they'll find that person eventually. And he might even be good, or he or she might even be good, but they just know because there's so many people coming into the industry, they can exploit them. And
ultimately, the quality of the content's just going to go down because you're not getting the best anymore because they're going to be like, well, I'm not, I can't live on this.
Which is hopefully why the strike should actually be effective, because you'll see what happens when you take the team of writers out.
Disney is in an interesting, slightly precarious situation at the moment. Very debt laden, following the acquisition of 21st Century Fox. There was actually, obviously Bob Iger, who led Disney, I think, for a couple of decades, and seemed like, good old Bob, can sort everything out, make everything great, and he's coming in, swinging the axe, cutting left, right, and centre. There was a report from the Wall Street Journal a couple of weeks ago, or 10 days ago, that said that that they're actually thinking of culling or selling off ABC, part of ESPN, all their cable network, and doubling down on streaming. But I think it sort of goes to the core of it that the streaming model is just not good business.
Blame it on the state of the industry for not paying your workers fairly. Yeah. It's like you chose to go into streaming.
Yeah.
You chose to invest billions in shit content and good content and that doesn't. It's irrelevant. Like, if you can't pay your workers to deliver the product, then you have a bad business.
Yeah, bad business model, and you shouldn't be making the product.
Like, quite frankly, if whatever it is, if it's a restaurant and no one wants to turn out to your restaurant because it's not making enough money and therefore your staff aren't getting paid enough, well, your staff just aren't going to work there. So if you can't pay for it, well, that's business. Tough shit, mate. You think I'm going to have sympathy for Bob Iger?
All my staff can suffer and get paid not what they deserve and not get residuals because we're not making enough money. Oh, all of a sudden, though, me and all my mates at the top, we still get ours. Like, we still get paid. Like that. Yeah. That's not where we make the cuts. Like, it's ridiculous.
On several of the related articles, Apple might buy them, as we spoke about a few episodes ago. Which is never going to happen.
Nice.
We talked about this. I think the whole thing is sort of, you've got these executives at the top who aren't necessarily valuing, and you've got this across the whole world. In this country, as we'll come on to in a minute, they're not valuing what their actors, what their writers across from big to small are adding to their business and their core of their operation, and without them, they wouldn't have the great shows, the great films.
Yeah, and like, we're talking about that quality again, if you're not going to give residual payments, if they're not going to be paid very well, then they're not going to put in as much effort. It's as simple as that. If I know, I'm this is just a one-time gig, I'm only getting paid this amount, well, that has no impact on whether I do a great job or not. Whereas if I knew, even though the industry's been using this for 60 years or however long it's been, I've been getting these residual payments. If I make an amazing product, if I make the best script in the world and it pops off and everyone loves it and watches it again and again and again, I could become rich out of that. Yep. And that just incentivizes you, for the writers specifically, to make something amazing. Now they don't have that. So why should you write a good product? Or why don't you get AI to write it? Which brings me to my second point. Here is a quote. I think this is from the union president again, but I didn't write this down, so I'm just going to say it probably is. They proposed that our background performers should be able to be scanned, get 1 day's pay, and their companies should own that scan, their image, their likeness, and should be able to use it for the rest of eternity on any project they want with no consent and no compensation.
God, that's fucking dark, isn't it?
So effectively, you're just breaking out into the industry. This is how you do it. You become a background extra. I've done it once. That's it. My face is gone. My identity's stolen. I got 300 quid. That's it. Why would they bring me on for more? How am I meant to get more experience?
So if you're a background actor and then 10 years down the line, you have a great career and you're the next Ryan Gosling, they could slap your picture on a billboard promoting some bullshit product.
You don't have the same rights. If they got to that point, yes, but they would never become that famous actor because they don't get any more gigs because they've got their AI.
God damn it. I mean, that's awful. I mean, that again, it's predatory because it's like, everyone wants to be an actor. There's a million people who want to be an actor. Let's literally, what can we suck out of this human being and give them the worst possible contract imaginable? And we know they're going to sign it anyway because they're desperate and they just want to be famous and they want to be successful.
Yeah.
So do you know what? Not only are we going to pay them fuck all and give them £1 a day to be an extra and overwork them and do whatever we're going to do to them in the contract, we're also going to own your likeness and go fuck yourself. Do you still want to be in the movie?
And it applies to writers as well because, of course, you know, with ChatGPT and all these tools that are getting better and better, okay, I can have less writers because I can get AI to do most of the work. It generates a whole script as a foundation, and then you pay a writer to polish it up. And polishing up a script does not cost as much as actually writing the whole script from scratch.
Let's say you're in the 6th season of a long-running TV show.
Yeah.
You could feed all your existing scripts for all the previous episodes. More American programs generally have like 30 episodes a series or something ridiculous, don't they? Yeah. You feed all of them, all the characters, all the stuff in there. You had like a writer giving the general idea of what the episode will be about. They pop that into their, let's call it Disney LLM, and they pop that in there for their TV program. Pop out a script. You've got your other writer just to polish it, and you could pump out a lot more rubbish, and you would save a whole ton of money, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I have a theory as well. You know how like television used to have kind of episode of the week, kind of no connective story. There's like maybe sprinkled here and there, but it was just, oh, here's a detective show, we're solving another case, and here's a different case, and here's a different case. Filler, basically. I think we're going to go back to having more filler just because the costs are just significantly reduced by doing that, and AI can do it.
I think the AI thing's inevitable. I don't think the unions are ever going to stop like jobs being replaced by AI. I just think it's going to happen.
And that's a lot of jobs lost. And ultimately, like, there's people that have spent their entire career, like, they've got skills in something that is no longer needed. Where are you going? I think that's just a problem in general with AI. This is a huge transformative change that's affecting millions of jobs.
Yeah.
What are you now doing with these people? What are they doing instead? Should we go into something positive?
Go, yeah.
We have more strikes in the UK.
Fuck.
I've got a list of all the strikes and the current status of them, okay? And this was, I think it was just from a BBC article. Right, so...
Luke, next time write down the sources.
Yeah, so junior doctor...
I think this was someone...
Yeah, this was somewhere. It doesn't matter. Like, you can fucking look it up yourself if you don't believe me. Right. As of the time of recording this, junior doctors, what's the status of the dispute? Unresolved. Other NHS staff, partially resolved. Teachers, unresolved. University staff, ongoing. Train drivers, partially resolved. Civil servants, unresolved. Royal Mail, partially resolved. Firefighters, resolved. Oh, that's good. We done one.
Because our railways are mostly privatised, why do we still class rail workers as public sector?
I don't know.
Sorry, it's just something I thought about the other day. Like, why is the government getting so involved if they're technically private?
They're private in the sense that they're profit driven. Everyone gets to make loads of fucking money. There's all these contracts going out. But then as soon as there's delays, the government has to fucking bail them out. They don't have to pay for that for some reason. Trains get cancelled, problems. The government bails it all out. So it's like, oh, we're private in the sense that we get to make a load of money, but we're public in the sense that all of our fuck-ups get bailed out by the British
profit
taxpayer.
is privatised and the losses are nationalised.
Yes, it's bonkers.
But we've got all these strikes going on still. It's been going on for what, months now? It must be.
We're about over 12 months.
Jesus.
That's rail strike.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I mean, what's the end goal here?
NHS has been a just catastrophe for a long time. Like, pay, everything's literally been at crisis point just constantly for like years. We're now reaching the point where we're about to have a big economic crash. So the cost of living's going up, cost of housing's going up, everything's getting... So it's like, it was already fucked, and they were they needed more pay for the longest time. Now they're realising, I can't even afford to like live. I can't be a nurse, I can't be a teacher, I can't support my family.
If you had somebody, a doctor in the UK, they could literally go across the water to Ireland and they'd earn basically double the salary. Or Australia, I think it's like 2.5, 3 times the salary. If you could, why wouldn't you? Like, there's nothing apart from maybe a sense of duty, which is not how you should run a massive employer like the NHS. And apart from that, there's very little.
So do we think the NHS is done, collapsed? It's going to happen?
No. I think that as a system, it's what we've got, and any the problem with the NHS, any chance to try and reform it, in whatever shape or form, make it more public, more private, whatever. I'm not coming out on any side. Any chance to reform, the public don't want it to change. But you could see maybe like a salami slicing. So if you take things like optometry with your eyes or dentistry, slowly over time, you've got private provision of public service, and you can't get 20 years ago, you would have been able to get a dentist on NHS. You can't enroll now at all in pretty much most areas. So it's this salami slicing technique, whether it's on purpose or not.
Well, they just make them private now, those specific.
Effectively, yeah.
things.
But even though on paper there should be NHS provision, in de facto there isn't, because I probably can't enroll in NHS one. So it's over time, things are just...
Yeah. I hate it,
Yeah.
and I think it's going to be irreversible. That's the problem, and I think the argument for keeping
Once you set
the
it
NHS,
up, how do you grab that back?
you don't. It's like the rail networks. It's very hard to reverse that thing. I think it's terrible. I think you're trying to. It needs funding, but it needed funding for the longest time. Ultimately, the people making decisions about these big, broad, like sweeping decisions about the NHS. A lot of them aren't doctors. A lot of them have never worked for the NHS.
That's just any politician.
A lot of them
about
have
anything.
A lot of them have no experience of what it's like, and then they'll do tours of a hospital.
Sleeves
and
rolled up, about to there.
They'll do tours of a hospital, and everyone's fixed everything, and they've got money come in just to make it look presentable for the fucking PM to wander around. And meanwhile, as soon as they leave the door, it's back to catastrophe. It's like a culture thing. It's like everyone's overworked and fucked. Everyone's like, there's all these suicides of people working in the NHS because they literally just can't keep it together. But everyone's doing it. If you moan, you'll just have to go find another job. And then, when there's the people who come around to expect it, who are arguably the system is, if there were problems, they would come around and notify them. We hide all the problems because we don't want to come across and our boss has told us to do it, because then he looks good. So the whole culture's fucked, and it's because it's just in freefall. Everyone's doing it as a sense of duty, because it's like, I'm here now and I want to save lives, and if I leave, I'm leaving another gap in the team, and I can't live with the fact that if I quit, people all might die.
Yeah.
So it's fucked, and the Conservatives have preyed on the fact that people have a sense of duty, and we've got these fucking heroes working in these positions who are just going to overwork themselves.
They're going to put your middle finger up.
And I think you see this across multiple sectors, which is why there's so many strikes going on at the moment. For example, in Scotland, with the university marking, because some people, they've done their 3-4 years, and they can't, effectively they're ungradable. They don't have a grade, because they've got to the end and they can't apply for jobs because they haven't qualified, and it's crazy. And it's
so why didn't they get a grade? Is that because there was
the
no
people
one
on
to
strike who mark the stuff? So
when does that happen, or is it just a massive backlog?
There'll just be a backlog for a year.
A whole year. So some people have to wait a whole year. I didn't hear about this. How did I miss that?
It was on I think BBC News or Channel 4.
God.
And I think there's a whole situation whereby some people, they will have to wait a whole year to be able to be reassessed in the next intake. But you've got a government, and obviously this is slightly where it gets confusing because it's devolved in Scotland, but ultimately the funding comes from London, the purse strings are held by the Conservatives, who are basically holding up whole sways of the economy. There's a lot of attacking of middle management in the NHS. There's too many managers is one of the things that often gets thrown at it. But the problem is you need a lot of these management or back office staff, because you don't want doctors sorting out shifts. You don't want nurses doing excessive paperwork. They want to be there to care. They want to be there to support the people who need care, not doing shift planning.
I needed care the other week. I had an incident after playing softball. Fucked my ankle. Got there. They were like, it's gonna be like a 4-hour wait, the guy said at the front. So I'm like, okay, I kind of expected this. 4 hours went by, okay, when's it coming? 6 hours went by, okay, this is getting fucking irritating now. 8 hours went by. I am livid. I'm like, this is ridiculous. This is so slow. And then it turns out there was just one doctor looking after patients for 2 hospitals. The other hospital was sending everyone to this hospital that I was at.
Chaos.
And I went in there, and this is just the chaos in the state of the NHS, because I went in there, they were like, okay, what's wrong with you? Oh, I think I might have broken my ankle. If I haven't, I know there's something wrong with it because I can't walk right now, so I need it checked out. So, okay, you need an X-ray. Here you go. Writes down X-ray on the corner of a blank piece of paper, tears out the corner, hands it to me. It just says X-ray. I'm like, right, the X-ray room's over there. Follow the blue signs. You can't miss it. Are you telling me I could have fucking wrote that down on my notebook and fucking handed an X-ray myself 8 hours ago? Anyway, went in there. There was no one there, obviously, because there's this massive backlog of people trying to see the doctor. So why would they be in the X-ray room? So I could have just done this ages ago. Pulled up the pictures. Okay, you haven't broken anything, but it's soft tissue damage. You should recover within some time. I'm like, okay, no other information then. Like, cool. And then... so what am I meant to do? Because I can't walk. And then she said, and I quote, this is a whole quote, we used to give out crutches and bandages and things like that, but we don't do them anymore, and fuck this job. That was a quote.
Oh, my
I'm
God.
Like, okay. Again, I can't walk. Why did you walk in here then? I didn't walk in here. I got a cab.
Yeah.
Like, okay. And then she just stormed out the room and didn't say anything. And then 3 minutes later came back with some crutches. Thankfully, I must have been lucky. I don't think it's her fault. I don't blame her for saying fuck this job.
She's probably on like 2 hours sleep. Yeah. Going back-to-back shifts. She's probably 12 hours deep in this
looking after 2 hospitals worth of patients.
Just fuck that job. How do these people get through the day?
Do you know how they get through the day? They watch Barbie and Oppenheimer and forget about the real world.
Jesus Christ.
I
don't think they have time, mate.
No, maybe not.
There's no way. No, they're sleeping in between.
But that is why I love movies, and that's because it helps you escape reality. That's quite dark. Do you have something uplifting?
I can talk about my holiday if you want.
Yeah,
talk about your holiday.
Your holiday was insane.
Yeah, so this is not a very good gear change. So I had 2 weeks away in Southeast Asia.
That sounds wonderful.
7 days. I hired a car in the Philippines. With your jeepneys and tricycles getting in the way. Then went to Bali for 4 or 5 nights. I stayed in a beautiful villa for 2 of the nights.
It was insane. Oh my God.
Yeah.
How'd you end up in this villa? Because you're not a multi-millionaire.
I'm not a multi-millionaire, but I am a travel blogger, and I reached agreement with them to stay at their property.
How do you actually reach agreement? Like, do they want a certain amount